Well, I'm going to start out by doing a shameless plug today. First of all, I'm going to talk about succulents, but I also want to talk about these wonderful seed planting, seed starting caddies that I've got on QVC right now. I'm getting ready to tomorrow on Outdoor Living with Dan, and I think it's 12 noon till maybe 3 on QVC2, which means it's online. You can watch it online. I'm going to be highlighting a number of the products that are still left. But I wanted to tell you about these because I have a feeling this is the next category that's going to sell out and sell out pretty quickly. And they're really a great price, you guys. I think these are $22. So I apologize for my shameless plug, but this is going to be part of what I'm talking about today, which is taking a hanging basket of succulents. I got this at Lowe's. I think it was maybe $20. And the reason I bought this instead of getting these succulents individually is because I looked at them individually and they were very, very expensive if I wanted to do an assemblage of pots. I say very, very, but you know, I guess that's a relative thing, but it was definitely a better value to get a hanging basket and disassemble it to put into individual pots for the look that I'm trying to create. Now, this reminds me a little bit of my interview with Klaus. I say interview, he actually interviewed me on Instagram on IGTV Live, and we talked about container plantings, and he is very much the king of container plantings, if you ask me. And one of his philosophies is that I wholly subscribe to is that he seems to like plants in singular in different pots and then put all the pots together versus making one pot with lots of different variety in it. And I really, really agree with that. I have a few things that are compositions of different kinds of plants, like my window box and a couple of large baskets. But most of the time, I find it more dramatic and more visually appealing to just have each plant by itself in one container and then add the containers. So this is a little bit surprising to me, you guys. So this was just in a plastic pot, and I removed this plastic hanger, which then I will put in recycling. And I'm a little bit surprised at how much peat is in this mix. And so I really was attracted to this one originally because it has some of this wavy jade in it, this crassula, that I like so much that I planted in another urn. And on Instagram, I will show you a picture of that. This, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll recognize this. It's used extensively by Harold's Finishing Touches, one of my very favorite accounts on Instagram. It's down in Australia. But I saw some of this and I wanted more of that. And there's all sorts of different types of jades and echeverias in here. And I'm sorry, I'm not that fluent in my sedum varieties, but I'm gonna get one of those apps that's a plant ID app. And we'll go through a little bit later, maybe in another video, and we will identify all of these for you. I love this one. It looks like some kind of underwater sea creature or some kind of, almost like a coral or something, like a coral reef. Can you kind of see that, Stuart? I think that's really kind of cool. So I'm going to be careful to preserve as much of the roots as I can, but as you know, succulents are really pretty tough. So I'm going to cut this one. And so I now have, instead of just one big pot, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different succulents. Now, where this is going to come into play a little bit later, maybe in another video, is I'm going to take some cuttings from some of these succulents and some that I've got out in my garden. They're very easy to propagate. And I'm going to put together a whole little caddy of this for Stuart's daughter, Julia, who is starting to really get into succulents. And yes, these do have drainage, and I think they'll look really cool in this galvanized finish. So she can do whatever she wants. She can stage them however she wants, but I think it'll be a really fun thing for her. And by the way, you guys, these plant stands are also on QVC now. They're one of the things I'm going to be talking about. And you guys know I have an obsession with different kinds of plant stands. Both of those are in galvanized. So now back to my project at hand. So what I want to do is plant all of these in terracotta. Now, ideally, I would have a huge bag of Espoma cactus mix, and I'll put a link to that below, along with some of their cactus food. And after I get this potted up, it's a liquid organic fertilizer specifically for succulents and cactus, and about once a month I will probably water these with that. After I pot these up, I'm not going to put them in full sun immediately. I'll put them in probably some high dappled shade until they adapt, and then slowly I'll temper them into a little bit more sunlight. But back to my potting mix, I just didn't have enough of that cactus mix, so I'm going to kind of MacGyver it a little bit because I've got other things to do today, and I don't want to stop what I'm doing to go back to Lowe's. So what I have done is put together, Stuart, if you can show, and I'll have to make more of this mix a little bit later, but I will do that when it stops raining, because you all, we got, I think, 4 to 5 inches of rain last night. When I came out this morning, my entire backyard was pretty much filled with water. Stuart, was yours? It wasn't. Mine was. It was just unbelievable. And that was on top of the 3 or 4 inches of rain that we had gotten in the couple days before. So we are really saturated, very uncharacteristic for Oklahoma. And yes, I do wish that I could send some of this rain to you guys in California. But back to my succulents, which do very well in arid climates, and that's my question for the day. Succulents are extremely popular right now, especially with young gardeners, and especially those that grow in apartments or on balconies. And my question for you is, have you joined the succulent craze? And if so, how? Do you grow them indoors or outdoors or in your garden beds? Are you as infatuated with these really exotic plants as the rest of us? So what I've done is put together, this is a trio blend, and it looks pretty moist, but it's because some of my potting soil and even my cactus mix got rained on. And this is a trio of cactus blend from Espoma, a little bit of regular potting soil, and then a lot of builder sand. So there should be adequate drainage in here, I think, for these succulents, particularly given that they still have quite a bit of whatever this medium is, which looks to me like it has a lot of peat in it, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's coir or something. If you guys know, please inform me in the comments below. But now I'm just deciding what containers that I want these to be in. And I want them all to be in terracotta because I just like that look. And no, I'm not being really fastidious about cleaning and bleaching these pots because I want some of that mossiness and that dirt, that aged look to grow on the outside. But I do know what came out of these recently. It was all very healthy stuff, so I'm maybe it's a little bit risky, but it's a risk I'm worth that I am happy to take right now, especially since it's pouring outside. So I think the first one that I'm going to go with is, well, I think I might start with this one since this was my original inspiration for buying this planter. So what I'm going to do is just kind of tuck this in here. And I want it to grow. I'm going to remove a little or mess with the root zone on the bottom. And another thing is, a lot of people will plant a lot of succulents together in an arrangement, and they don't want it to grow very fast because they want that arrangement to maintain its size and scale, the same size and scale that it had when they originally planted it. But these I want to grow, and so these I am going to feed and put them in an area where I think they will really thrive and get bigger. Now, as always, I am not as prepared as I should be, but again, I'm going to blame it on the rain because running in and out of the house to get stuff in a downpour isn't fun. But what I typically do is I have a makeup brush, a long-handled makeup brush, that I use to then just brush off this dirt and some things that fall in here. And then what I like about this is that there is more than enough clearance here for me to be able to water it very sparingly right at the root zone. And I've even seen some people, I think, was it Laura and Garden Answer? I've also seen another friend of mine, and they actually use like a water baster to water their plants, especially those that are crammed together. But I am not going to do that. And in fact, right now, I am not going to water this at all. I will just take my brush to it. I will, of course, put a layer of gravel on the top because that will enhance its good looks. And it will also keep excess moisture from coming back up onto the foliage, because I certainly don't want this to rot after I plant it, and we've had a lot of rain. Another thing that I'm going to be very attentive to is if this rain looks like it's going to continue, I think, for about the next week, Stuart, is that correct? And so I'm going to make sure that I don't leave these outside where they will just get dumped on with really excess rainfall. So I'll put these in kind of a protected area out of the rain and the elements not in it. So I like the way this looks. I will do a little bit of garden grooming on this a little bit later. And then I'm going to go with another variety. And I like the way this looks in here. I love these, you guys, because they have this, and I so apologize for not knowing my succulents. If somebody out there knows the names of all of these without having to research it, please let me know. It's one of the things that I'm going to be learning as I get my plant ID out or a succulent book. But I love this blue-green color. It's kind of like a seafoam green. And increasingly, I just like the color of this kind of Mediterranean foliage. I want more and more Mediterranean type plants in my garden, and this will definitely do the trick. And I can bring these in the winter. I've got a place where I can put them, and they will all look really good assembled together. I like groupings of plants. As you know, sometimes I'll congregate them together in what I call a plant theater on a plant stand outside. And I just like that look when they're all together. And actually, I think they like being together. They like the companionship of their friends, both visually and I think environmentally. And these, I think, would look really nice on a galvanized tray, a galvanized platter, all together. So I'm going to leave plenty of clearance there for the gravel. Are you liking the way those look, Stuart? Mm-hmm. Okay, now I've got a large one here, which might be... Let me see, I think this one probably needs to be in a larger pot. So I don't want to unduly stress it. What do I want to do? I think I do kind of like the way those two look together. Do I want to defy what I just said, Stuart, and actually put 2 together? Stuart, is this, you make the call. Is this a yay or a nay? Should I be an absolutist or should I put them together?
I think you should put them together.
Put them together? Okay. And by the way, you guys, yesterday when I did my porch refresh and I asked you, should I cut off the 3rd tier on one of my topiaries? I don't think we have ever had so many comments. We have some very opinionated, we have a very opinionated community here, which I just love. And emphatically so. Some of you were just very, oh my gosh, don't touch that 3rd tier. You were really, really dogmatic about it, emphatic about it. And the others of you took kind of a more tender approach. Oh, please, please don't cut off that 3rd tier. And I can relate to both of those. And I still really haven't decided because it's been raining so much. I haven't gone out there and really examined it. I certainly can relate to both of you who are on team 2-tier and versus team 3-tier. I can definitely relate to both of those squads. Okay, so there we go. I love the way these look and are coming together. And I think I'm going to go and I'm going to get a couple more small pots for these, and I'll finish up this planting without you. Some of these leaves that have fallen off, some of this foliage, and I don't recall breaking this. I think some of it was kind of broken in the pot. But I will let these heal over and their tips dry, and then I will stick these in something, in probably some of that coarse builder sand, and let them try to propagate themselves and grow up from little guys into big guys. So there you go, and I will go and top dress these with some gravel, you guys, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're all done. Well, here is my fashion epilogue for today, in case you guys have held in to the very end. My earrings today I actually got a long time ago. They're just inexpensive, probably just 10. I got them in Mexico a long time ago, though I've seen similar ones at different stores here in Oklahoma City, so they're easy to find, but I love them because I love the color and just the fact that they remind me of that trip. My top is actually one of the brands from Anthropology. I'm not sure which one. I got this online a number of years ago, and I really like its kind of earthy colors and the fact that it reminds me of tree trunks of a forest. So that was my inspiration for getting this. And then just some old jeans that I have had since my younger son was in junior high, because I remember buying them right after I went to one of his basketball tournaments. So that's why I can remember that. So there you go. There's my fashion epilogue for today. Oh, one last thing. Some of you have commented, am I letting my hair grow out? And yes, I am, because I want it to be a little bit longer for the wedding. So there you go.